Hello, my name is Ebony Barbour, and I'm a second-year law student at Penn State Law. I'm currently in the Manglona Lab for Gender and Economic Equity. For the lab's Witnesses to Her Story project, we are capturing the personal experiences of women with a focus on their participation in education, sports, and the workforce during a dynamic era in the United States. Today, I have the privilege of interviewing Dr. Sherry Jones, an advocate for urban ministry and church organization. Dr. Jones, thank you for joining me today, and we're going to start off the interview right now. So first, we're going to start with just how you grew up in your childhood. What year were you born?
I was born in 1950.
And where did you, oh, sorry, go ahead.
At Lankenau Hospital in North Philadelphia at the time. It was in North Philadelphia, near where is it? Near the college, Henry School. Hershey School, I mean, not Hershey, it's Henry Hershey. But I was born in 1950 to parents at Lankenau Hospital on September the 11th, 1950.
Thank you. And so you said you mentioned your parents. Did you grow up with both of your parents?
Yes.
Did they work outside the home?
Yes, they both worked outside the home.
Can you describe what both of your parents did?
My father did, for a while, he was doing tailoring. He was a tailor. And my mother was working in the laundry room at the naval base.
Did you see women working a lot in your community when you were growing up?
Yes, women did what was then called days work, working with families in the suburbs.
Did seeing these women and what they were working on and what your mom worked as, did this influence whatever you wanted to do when you grew up?
The influence of what I wanted to do when I grew up was mainly from my parents, my mother in particular. She didn't know anything about college, but she always talked about me attending college, and the same with my brother. But it wasn't just the women working, it was mainly my mother's influence and my aunt's influence, her sister.
Did they both influence you to go into the career you're into, or just to go to college in general?
They didn't want me anywhere near the career I ended up in.
Why not?
They didn't think it was enough money. They thought I'd need to find a job where I could stay 30 years or more and have a good pension and retire. So they didn't want me anywhere near ministry or theology or pastorate.
So was this a influence or a value that your parents instilled in both you and your brother, like you said, for career-wise? Longevity?
Yes, they both instilled that. And my brother ended up being, at first when he graduated college, was a teacher.
So to continue the conversation on influences and role models or anything like that, what type of entertainment did you watch growing up?
Wow. Growing up in my time, entertainment was limited to the TV. The first time my father purchased a TV was a month's TV, and he brought it in the house, and it was a small screen. And I looked at most of the children's shows, Gene London, Uncle Pete Boyle, and Howdy Doody, Mr. Green Jeans and Captain Kangaroo and things like that. So I watched those shows, and my parents allowed me, so much time, and I had a very vivid imagination, so I could enjoy the shows and participate in some of the children activities. One of the Philadelphia stars that I looked at was a woman named Sally Starr, and I always wanted to have guns and holsters and a cowboy hat like her. So that's what I grew up with.
Okay. And What about any, as you also got older, what about any magazines or books or anything like that?
What I remember growing up was the Jet magazine and Ebony. Those were the two magazines that came in our house, along with the Tribune newspaper. We read the other newspapers, but my parents read the Tribune and the Daily News, the Enquirer sometimes. But magazines was the Jet and Ebony.
So in thinking about the TV shows, movies, books, magazines, what did you primarily see women being advertised as?
Well, it seemed like women were being advertised as models, mainly modeling the hair products or makeup or cosmetics. Then there were those, of course, who were into show business, and some who were in politics and all that we saw in the magazines, and they were stressing their life and things like that.
And as you got older, saying when you kind of continued to grow up, like you said, did you see the advertisement of women change throughout the years?
I can't remember seeing much change over the years. I think we followed mainly people in entertainment and what movies they were in and things like that. Following people like Sidney Poitier or Lena Horne and things like that. Then Diane Carroll, who came on with the first TV show with a Black woman star. Things like that. I think we followed more than anything else, and more than politics or education, or we mainly followed the entertainment section.
How did it feel kind of seeing the evolution, as you were saying when you were growing up, of women, especially Black women, get played like the starring roles or anything like that as you were growing up?
Well, ask that question again. I'm sorry.
No problem. As you said that you said you guys are following the entertainment section a little bit more, especially if you saw any Black women start to get the leading roles. Can you recall how you felt while you were watching that change, or how you felt seeing more women that look like you kind of come on the screen?
Well, what it reminds me of was the first time, and probably the last time because of the lawsuit around the movie, was Porky and Bess.
Okay.
And the actors that were portrayed in that, and Dorothy Dandridge, and noticing that, and I think I didn't think about the fact that she was in Hollywood or anything like that, or that it was unusual for her to be in Hollywood. And I think I just looked at them as stars. They were just stars. They were just entertainment and all. And so we didn't think about the fact that it was a rarity that they would be in leading roles in movies and things like that, because it was a Black movie. As far as we were concerned, it was a movie about Black people. And even when looking at Sidney Poitier in movies and things like that, and you didn't think about the fact that there was, again, a rare thing for a Black person to be in leading roles, and it was just accepted that they had those roles. And it was only later that you find out what they struggled and went through to get into those roles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you. So moving on to a slightly different topic, you said you grew up with a brother. Do you only have one sibling?
Yes, one sibling, 8 years apart. I'm older than he is.
Okay. So with the age difference, and growing up, how do you remember the chores kind of being divided between you two?
The chores being divided between us was really making up the bed and getting trash out and things like that were divided between us. And, he put out the trash and I'm making up the beds. Then we learned how to wash windows and things like that, and we all did that. What was popular when we lived in North Philly was cleaning the marble steps. And with Ajax, that was because they were white marble. And to keep them clean, we used Ajax on them. And that was the job I had. And I enjoyed that job because once you clean those steps, they sparkle like. So, but we divided the jobs up like that. And then I know my father, he liked teaching us how to work on cars. And I didn't learn much from that, but he taught both of us.
Okay, so your father taught both you and your brother how to work on cars.
Yeah, he showed us how to work on cars, and he showed us how to drive. He was the one who taught us how to drive.
And as you were growing up, what did you and your brother wear?
Well, for a while in school, we could only wear skirts and things like that, and I think it changed for us when I was a senior. We could wear pants, but we couldn't wear jeans. There was no restriction on the boys, shirts, they didn't have to wear ties or anything like that. Just be neat and clean in what clothes they wore, but girls were restricted in what we could wear at the time. Even in playing sports, we didn't. I'm looking at what the young women are wearing to play sports and basketball. We had skirts with bloomers.
To play basketball?
To play basketball, we did not have shorts.
Wow. And you said that it didn't change until your senior year of high school?
Senior year of what you could wear to school.
Right.
The sports dress did not change at all.
Okay.
Even when I got to college, we were not wearing shorts. We were wearing skirts with bloomers underneath.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Before we get to college, so in how you were wearing, you said dresses and everything to school, was that also reflective of what women wore in the community, even like grown women like your mom or your aunt or women you saw in the community? Was it mostly dresses and skirts?
Mostly dresses and skirts. Yeah. Right. There was I think it was a long time for my mom put pants on. She was always in a dress when she went to work.
So she had to wear a dress going to work in you said laundromat or something?
When she worked in the laundromat, she was in a dress. Yes.
Okay.
And then when we got older, she started doing days work.
Okay.
And days work means you work for white families, as a maid, pretty much. That's what you are. A housekeeper.
Okay. And so transitioning back into high school, and you said that you had to wear dresses and skirts, but the boys had no dress code that they had to follow.
No.
And so did you participate in any sports while you were at school?
Yes, I played sports in high school. I played volleyball, tennis, basketball in high school. In high school.
And what year was that?
Let me see. I graduated in 68. So, 66, 67, 68.
And what did you have to wear? Can you just reiterate what you had to wear when you were playing sports and how it kind of made you feel having to wear?
We had short skirts with underneath that we had what we call bloomers. They were, big underwear. That was panties. That was, but we had to wear these short skirts that we had to either get purchase at the store, or we had to have them made, and t-shirts.
And how did you feel having to wear skirts while playing something like basketball and volleyball?
Well, you didn't feel any way about it because you didn't know anything else, and nobody was wearing anything else. Nobody was wearing shorts and things like that, or gym shorts or anything like that. We all in playing sports wore the skirts, no matter what sport it was in. Even with gymnastics, you still had the skirt.
And did you feel the same way with the uniform and the fact that women had such a strict guidelines and men did not? Did you feel the same way?
Yeah, no, I think that I felt the same way. We, of course, didn't have anything else to model after or anything different, and that's the way it was, and that's the way we accepted. And the gym teachers are probably the most strict teachers in the whole school system and all of the schools. So, what they said went.
Did you have male or female gym teachers?
Female.
Did they also have to wear skirts?
Yes.
And the coaches,
they wore little longer skirts, but they didn't dress in pants or anything like that.
would it be the same way for any female coaches at the school as well?
Yes, if we had a game or something like that, the coaches were always in suits. And the girls, of course, were in their uniforms.
So moving on a little bit from sports in the school, did you participate in any sports outside of school?
Yes, I played at a recreation center. Played basketball.
Was the dress code the same there as well?
No, not really. If I remember correctly. If I remember correctly, we could dress in pants. We didn't have shorts like they have now. No, but we could dress in pants.
So the uniform only extended to the school?
No, yeah, school system. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So remaining in high school, do you remember if there were any classes that you took that females had to take, but men did not?
Yes, home economics.
What did that class entail?
Well, most home economics class was teaching us how to cook and how things go in the kitchen and how you set a table and things like that. And then one year I took a home economics class that included sewing. We had to sew an outfit or a blouse or a top or something like that. And boys did not sit in those classes. Boys were in the shop class.
Did you ever want to participate in shop? Or were you okay with home economics?
I was okay. I didn't want to mess with tools, power tools and things like that, no.
Was the home economics teacher a female?
Yes.
Were they always female and then the shop professors always men?
Yes, that's how it went.
And for classes like history or English, do you remember either reading any books by female authors or learning about any famous female historians?
No, I don't remember reading female authors. Matter of fact, in our English class, I don't remember reading many books at all. No, there was one book we read, was a male author though. It wasn't a female author. I don't remember reading any books by female authors. There was one book that I remember they fussed about having that we shouldn't be reading, and that was too racy. But don't ask me the title of that book, but whatever was going on in the 60s at the time, that wasn't a popular book for youth to be reading, but we did read it in one class.
And for your history classes, do you remember learning about any famous females throughout history?
No, I don't remember reading about famous. I remember only when I got to college did I start reading about females in history.
During the time you were at high school, did you ever realize that you were not learning about females in history or reading books by female authors?
No, didn't. You know, we were taught to read and write and do our classwork. Whatever was given to us, we were taught to do. So you didn't question the teachers, you didn't question what was going on or how things were being taught. And my parents' only thing was pushing us to have the grades in order to go to college. So yeah, we didn't do any of those things. I don't think we ever questioned teachers, and we didn't know we could.
And from the teachers you had in high school, did you realize if certain female teachers taught one subject or certain male teachers taught another subject?
No, well, it seemed like English teachers were always women.
Okay.
And history was always men. Because all of my history professors were males. And English teachers were females. And of course what we had health class.
And was that taught by a female?
It was taught by female.
Was health class ever split up between men and women?
Yes.
And what about your math and science classes?
Math and science classes, if I remember, were mainly males. Women were found in the arts and in English classes and literature.
Okay. Now, moving on a little bit from high school to now college, you said that it was encouraged for you to go to college, correct?
Yes.
What college did you go to?
My first college was community college, the community college of Philadelphia. And then I transferred to Cheney.
Okay. And what year did you start your education post high school?
Oh, let's see. Did I go? I went after graduation. I went to community college after graduation, taking courses at night while working during the day.
So I think you said that might have been around 68, 69?
68, 69, yes. And then I transferred to Cheney in 70.
And what was your major?
Major was history.
And were most of your professors in college as well for history also women?
I had one woman history professor, I remember, but mainly I had a math professor. I mean, not math professor, but a male professor in some of the history classes. And matter of fact, I had a couple of males in literature class also. But English was female.
And what was the makeup of most of your classes like in terms of men and women in your classes?
Well, when I was at Cheney, um, I think it was pretty even when I was at Cheney, the men and women. It wasn't like there was more men in the class than women, or it was pretty even in the number of men and women in classes.
Was it encouraged for women in your community to go to college?
It was encouraged by my parents, but I'm not going to say that every parent, and because we lived in the projects, and I don't think all parents were pushing for their kids to go to college, because I know a number of our neighbors, they didn't go to college. But my mother had other ideas.
And while you were in college, I know you said that around your senior year of high school is when you were finally, the schools were starting to finally allow you guys to wear pants. What did you wear during college, whether it was at community college or Cheney?
I wore jeans. Yeah, I found like I like blue jeans. They weren't making them black then.
Were most women around during college, were they wearing jeans as well?
Yes.
So would you say by the time that you got to college, and it was pretty much a hard shift from skirts to jeans for women?
It was a what?
Was it a clear shift in
Yeah,
women?
it was a clear shift. It seemed to be a clear shift that once you got to college, you could dress the way you wanted to dress. So I like jeans, and so I could wear those.
Did you continue any sports while you were in college?
Yes.
When was the uniform like there?
We back to the skirts and the bloomers.
Was it? I'm
Really?
asking. Yeah,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you were allowed to wear jeans to class, but participating in sports, you had to wear skirts?
We had to wear a uniform that was acceptable. Yes.
And what sports did you participate in?
Basketball, tennis, and volleyball.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was that kind of like? You got to wear jeans going to classes, but as soon as you went to practice or a game, you had to switch back into a skirt or a dress.
Uh, Again, it was what we were supposed to do and what we were supposed to wear. So we never fussed about it, and we never, had the opportunity to wear shorts or anything like that to class. I mean, the practicing we could practice in our pants, we could practice in our shorts if we had shorts, but we couldn't have games without having the skirts.
When you played against other teams, were the women also wearing skirts?
Uh, yes, they were, except I can't remember. It was a Catholic girls' school. I don't remember if they were in skirts. I don't remember them being in skirts. I remember them being in shorts for sure. Um, yeah, I think there was one Catholic girls' school that we played against that did have shorts, and they played like guys too. They were fierce.
And after college and everything, you also went on to get further education. You got
Yes.
So where did you go right after? Did you graduate from Cheney?
No, I transferred to Temple.
Okay. And did you notice any difference between what the women were wearing from community college to Cheney to Temple?
The Temple, they had shorts.
Okay.
Yeah, they didn't have the skirts. But I didn't play sports at Temple.
Okay.
Yeah.
After you graduated from Temple, where did you go to school?
I went to Princeton.
Princeton,
seminary.
right? Okay.
Mhm.
And what year? Do you remember what year was that?
Let me see. I graduated in 79, so 70, I mean, not 79, 97, 70 would be 79. It would be, when did I graduate? That is, I transferred to Temple, graduated Temple. Yeah, I finished Temple in 76 and transferred and entered Princeton. And then graduated from Princeton in 3 years. So it was 79.
So you went to Princeton Theological Seminary. What was that like, going from Temple to Theological Seminary?
Oh, well, first of all, being in Princeton was my parents drove me to the seminary, to Princeton, New Jersey. And we had never been in that city. And we felt like we were country bumpkins, we felt like hillbillies or something, that, we had left one time zone and entered another. So it was unusual because Temple is pretty diverse, and it's in a Black neighborhood in particular. So graduating from Temple and being in a Black community and being in a Black church and things like that, and then going to Princeton, where out of 600 students, there was only 27 Black students, was a major shift. And I was in a dorm where I was the only Black person in the dorm. And so that was it. And it was the time that Roots was rebroadcast. They rebroadcast Roots. It was really interesting to see white students watch Roots and have a discussion with us about it. But
sounds interesting.
Yeah, it was a major shift in my life to be in the minority as I was, and out of the city in Princeton. But it was an interesting time. It really was. And so the Black students, we found ways to meet and stay with each other and support each other.
That's great. So you mentioned that there was already a low number of Black students in seminary. Do you remember the demographic between men and women as well?
Demographic, it was more, there were more men than there were women. And they were also more married couples than there were singles. So the singles were on the main campus, and the married couples were in the married couples housing, which was off campus. So we saw the married students, well, those who were married, we saw them maybe in class, depending on what level they were on, what class level they were in. But the single women, we hung out together.
Was the dormitories co-ed, or were they split?
Co-ed.
Co-ed, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And also with college, I know this might change depending on the location you're at, but what was college like for the dormitories as well?
I was only in the dorms at Cheney, and that was not, they had moved to co-ed 1 year. They moved to co-ed, and that was interesting and a challenge, but we didn't have I wasn't in the dorms at the other colleges, so I don't know what life was like for students in the dorms there at Temple, but at Princeton we had co-ed dorms.
Okay. So being at seminary, something like seminary in around 76, what was that like entering that world as a female? Especially as you said, unmarried female.
Yeah, what it was like was it depended on what was going on in the country at the time. You had the beginning of the women's movement,
right?
So you had some of the white women wanting the women of color to participate and be supportive of the women's movement, and you had the Black Power, and you had all of that going on at the same time, and Princeton is like this little oasis just above Trenton, New Jersey, that
right,
wherever, and so you feel like you're cut off from the rest of the world being there and on campus, and pretty much the level of work kept us busy. So we were studying and all of that. And so I don't think the married students again were off campus, so we didn't see them other than if we were in class with them. The single students, we hung out together, and we tried to hang out with our dorm mates as well sometimes, but we were really in the minority.
Was it common for you to see women, one, go past getting their bachelor's degree, let alone go to seminary? Did you see that? Did you see women doing that a lot in your community?
Not in my community, no. Not in theology or the study in the church and anything like that. No. It was something I wanted to do once I graduated high school. I became a part of the church, and so I wanted to be in the pastorate. And that's what my parents and my aunt and others in my family didn't agree with, but I didn't tell them that I applied to the seminary. It was a shock to them when I said I'm going to seminary.
At least you were close to home, going to Princeton.
Yeah, it was close to home. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was close to home, because all I had to do is get but we had a shuttle that went between Princeton and the train station in Trenton. And so all we had to do is to take the shuttle, and I could be in the city.
Mhm.
But
Did you have many female professors in seminary?
I had not many, but I did have I had a few. In Old Testament, and mostly theology courses were male, but Old Testament history and was one woman, and the assistant dean of the dean of students was a woman, and but mostly were men in the theology department, and the president was male. So I think it was heavily male populated. It wasn't that many women around.
So based on that, did you encounter any perceptions that women shouldn't be in seminary, or especially studying theology, or even wanting to go into being a pastor?
Well, at the time I was with the Presbyterian Church, and so I was, I was being supported by my church in that sense, being in seminary, and I had gone through the the qualifications for being considered part of the presbytery. And so I had that support, and my parents, they didn't say one way or the other. They were just looking at it as a financial thing, that you don't make money in preaching in the pastorate.
Mhm.
So anyway, and the women that I hung with, the single women that I hung with, the Black women that I hung with, were all coming from Baptist backgrounds or AME backgrounds, and so they had some support, but not as much as being a Presbyterian would have. Wasn't unusual for women Presbyterians to be in seminary, and Princeton is a Presbyterian seminary.
So with all that being said, did you also feel any pressure to pursue getting married while at seminary?
No.
No. Okay.
No pressure on that end.
That's good.
Yeah.
And while you were studying at seminary, did you study any female theologians?
Nope, I can't say that I did. I don't remember one. Again, it was the times,
Right.
and Cone was the major voice going on at the time, and he visited the school and spoke in a lecture series, and so Black theology was beginning to grow, and there weren't women voices at that time speaking out about Black theology. It was men. James Cone and others like him, and I can't remember, it was a brother from South Africa. I can't think of his name now, but again, I probably didn't pick up on Black women writing in theology until much later, and those coming out of the feminist movement that began writing books and going to seminary and getting their doctorate. So that was the change. That change slowly came about, of particularly even Black women going on for the doctorate in theology.
So there was this slow change happening while you were getting your MDiv.
There was a slow change happening. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, I think it had to do with the women's movement.
Right.
And one of the things that we as Black women on campus discussed among ourselves was that the white women wanted us to be a part of their movement, and we didn't feel like they were addressing what we as African Americans needed to address in our community, our own community. And I know that they didn't understand that, and when we spoke out about it, it caused a great split among Black women and white women on campus for a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after you got your MDiv, you also, it was a few years later, but you also continued to get your doctorates.
Yeah, I got my doctorate much later. I waited a long time for that, and there were more women writing at that time, and more books by women theologians and all.
What did you get your doctorates in?
My doctorate is in urban missions and leadership.
And what year did you get your doctorates? Or what year did you start? And then
I started in 2013, finished in 2016.
So in comparing your MDiv, your master's in divinity, and then your doctorates from, that was the 76 to 2013, it's a very big difference.
Yeah.
What was that, and comparing the two, how was your experience, one as a woman, two as a Black woman, especially in comparing those? How did you kind of fit into those different educational areas? What was your experience like? Sorry.
What was my experience?
Yes.
In the doctoral program, I was one of maybe 3 women. It was predominantly males.
Mm-hmm.
And they and the women were there was one woman who was a pastor who had planted a church in South Philly, and so I was working on staff at a church, and as a teaching pastor. So the difference was that I really had no female teachers at all
In your doctorate program?
In my doctoral program.
Okay.
I had no female teachers.
Okay. Even in 2016 or 2013?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it was predominantly male. And and depending on the class, I could be the only female in the class, but the brothers that I were around, I knew some of them before we were in class together. And so we had a good relationship. And most of them, though, came from churches that women were not found to be in the pastorate. So that was unusual. And it was more Korean students in the classes than African Americans. There were a few African Americans, but mostly the majority of the students in our class were Asian.
And where did you get your doctorate at?
At the school is now called Mishio. And
where is it?
It's downtown near the police roundhouse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's in Philly.
It's in Philly. It was in the suburbs in Harleysville, and then it moved in the city about 3 years ago. I think just before the pandemic, I think they moved. Okay. Yeah.
So I know it's a pretty different time when you got your doctorate in 2013, but even with that, by this time, did you see more women pursuing higher education, especially post BA?
Post what?
Post getting your bachelor's.
Yeah. Did I see many women? Well, at Mishio, I didn't see that many women. And that could have been just because I was in the DMin program. And I don't know what the other classes look like, but they're not prejudiced against women being in their classes or anything like that. I just don't think women were pursuing that area, depending on what churches they were connected with. And so if you had a woman teacher, she would have been in the counseling department.
In your doctorates?
Yeah, even in the doctorate you'd find women in the counseling department, but I didn't take any counseling courses. So all my teachers were male.
Were you continuing to mostly just read male theologians in your doctorate program?
Let me look at. Yes. I think there have been a couple of female writers, and and not so much theologians, but history that I read. Bell Hooks is one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, I go on blank about others. I would have to look in my books, because one of the things that I don't do as much as I used to is read as much as I used to. So I think that I picked up some female writers on theology, but others on spirituality in particular.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you find it difficult kind of breaking into the urban ministry career field as a woman?
Not with the church that I'm with. I'm with Pentecostal and Pentecostal churches that have women pastors, women leaders, women bishops, women apostles, and all of that. So
Mm-hmm.
you don't have those restrictions. And I came to the position after being in seminary for a while where I wanted to teach more than I wanted to pastor. And so I ended up teaching in a Christian college.
And how did you find out about the role, first of all, to start teaching at a Christian college?
Let me see, how did I find out about that? Oh, well, first of all, I was hired by an organization called Center for Urban Theological Studies, which worked with not a local college, but a college out near Pittsburgh, Geneva College, that provided the degree. So we were connecting the students. We went after the students. We groomed the students. We taught the students. We used teachers from the city, and they were the degree granting organization. And then we changed that in 2012 to Lancaster Bible College, which is much closer. And Center for Urban Theological Studies did the same relationship. We had an articulation agreement with the colleges that they provided the degree, we provided the faculty. And so we had a number, our faculty was pretty much half and half women, half men. Females mainly found in the human services, and few lead teachers meet in what was then called the degree completion programs. You ever heard of those?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And we had a degree completion program, and we had some lead teachers that were female.
So when you started working at Lancaster Bible College, did you find that there were a lot of women who were working, who were also professors, or was it mainly the degree completion programs and the?
Well, Lancaster, being the conservative school that it is, had some females teaching in the areas of not in theology though.
Right.
The females are in maybe history or the arts or languages and all that, but not found in the theology department.
What area did you teach in?
And in the theology department.
Oh, okay. So did you find that difficult?
Well, it was two. I taught in history and theology in Bible. No, because we hired the teachers. Okay. Because we were here in the city of Philadelphia, so we hired our own teachers, and so we had some women teaching Bible, and some teaching theology. Not that many, but we had a few whose degrees were allowed them to teach in that area. but we hired sometimes some of our professors were local pastors
Sure.
that we had relationships with. And yeah, that's what was different about us. We hired the faculty.
And so your career mostly stems around the term urban ministry. Can you just give a
Yes.
brief explanation about what urban ministry kind of means, especially to you, and how you go about practicing it?
Well, urban ministry for me is how does the scripture define what we do in ministry in the city, and sometimes how does the city define how we do ministry in an urban setting? What is different than maybe in a rural setting or a suburban setting that's going on in the city? And we also were different because we were an adult educational program. So we didn't have 18, 19, 20-year-olds. We had people who had started school at one time, dropped out, had to work. Now they see they need a degree, and they come to us, and we work with them and support them in their academics. We support them in their writing with a writing lab, and the teachers are right there at the campus, and so we can talk and walk with the students through the process. So it was a different atmosphere as adult educational system and program, but basically it's just what I said. How does the scripture speak to the needs and the concerns of the city, and how do we minister in that context?
And in this specific career field, especially with all of the education you have behind it, did you find it difficult or easy for women to kind of get into this career field?
Did I find it easy or difficult? I think it's difficult for some women, depending on if they are able financially or time-wise able to seek a higher degree and to go after that doctorate in order to teach, because we have teachers who have their master's degree, but we prefer ones with doctorate in certain areas, of course. And so I've seen less women go because it's also very expensive lately. It is very expensive. We found students graduating from Lancaster Bible College and from loans and things like that. They're up to $50,000 to $60,000 paying back. And so you think about that for a second, and you realize it's too expensive to go on for a higher degree. And so they don't.
Right.
Yeah.
After teaching at Lancaster Bible College, did you continue teaching somewhere else, or did you go more so into full-time urban ministry?
I went into full-time urban ministry, and I do teach Bible classes, theology classes online. I do a Zoom teaching with a few students, and all women. We've had one man try to sit in the class, and I guess he didn't want to be with the class full of women.
Wow, interesting. What was the class about?
Well, we've done classes of biblical theology. We've done, we're going to have a class on the attributes of God coming up in the fall. We did New Testament, Old Testament, hermeneutics, and no, we didn't do homiletics yet, but hermeneutics we've done, and biblical theology. So I teach that on Sunday nights from 7 to 8:30.
At a college?
No, I just do it through Zoom.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because I mean they're not people looking for a degree,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's not taught on a it's taught mainly probably on an undergrad level.
Okay.
Yeah.
Throughout your career in doing urban ministry, especially in Philly, and kind of seeing how, you know, you went from being one of 3 women in your doctorate program to now you're teaching Bible classes to classes that are mostly filled with women. How have you noticed that kind of shift in culture with like women either getting their degree or especially attending these classes that mostly do with Bible or theology?
How do I see?
How have you seen that shift? Like, what has that shift looked like to you?
It's a shift that that shows me that women want to know more. They want to dive deeper into theology and you know, whether it's biblical theology or doctrinal theology, or they want to dive more into it. And particularly when I taught the class on hermeneutics, and how to study the Bible and read the Bible, how to read things in context and not take them out of context, and not to be eisegeting but exegeting. And they loved that. They wanted to know that. They wanted to participate in understanding how to do that. And not so much because they were looking for a degree or they were looking for a position in their church or anything like that. They just found the information and the knowledge to broaden their perspective and their understanding of Scripture, and they enjoyed that. So, you know, not every church is set up to have those kind of classes and do that kind of teaching, but it would be filled with women, I think, if churches were offering those kind of classes and all.
Mhm.
And you didn't have the pressure of having to get a grade, because I'm not grading them, they're just taking the class.
Right.
Yeah.
And okay, so Dr. Jones, when we started our interview, I described you as someone who is dedicated to urban ministry and church organization. How would you describe yourself?
Whew. I am committed to seeing the body of Christ work in unison, and to work together in the city in particular, to make changes in their communities, and see that we have healthy families. I'm committed to also racial reconciliation, as well as multi-ethnic communities, and working across the table with other ethnic communities in order for changes to be made in the city and in the streets and in our neighborhoods, and for us not to separate ourselves from each other, but to come together, because our young people don't see us coming together. They don't see us working together, and they need to see us working together and coming together, and they need to see it in the school system, and which would put down some of the fighting that goes on between groups. But I worked in different, as a substitute teacher, I worked in different schools, and I find that that young people want to be cross-cultural. They want to be cross-cultural. They exist cross-culturally in their schools. And there's this one school I'm thinking of, Tacony Academy. And the Black kids, the Latino kids, the white kids, the international kids had formed bonds together, and they were together. They ate lunch together. They talked in groups. They talked in class together. They didn't have the problem of racial division that maybe their parents had. And they needed to be supported in that. But we as adults have to be together in order for that to happen. So I see myself working in those areas, as well as mentoring Gen Z and millennials that in order to do urban ministry, to be involved in urban ministry. And so I find myself in those areas.
And with all that being said, with such a long career that has so many high points in it, looking back on all of you've experienced and achieved, what makes you the most proud of what you've done, but especially also your younger self as well?
Well, I'm proud that in my older that in my old age I decided to get my doctorate. I went after that and did a dissertation and all of that, and defended it and all. That was a big deal for me, and I you know, made my family very proud. And they have the wrong understanding of what it means to get a doctorate. They think that you get a power job after that, and that's not true. But anyway, I'm proud of the fact that I did stick with urban ministry. I've been in urban ministry since 1968. Yeah, I would say 1968. I've been in urban ministry, working at different levels of camps and running camps for kids and having after school programs and things like that. And so I'm glad that I've grown and I've stuck with it, and haven't given up on it, and haven't given up on the church. That helps a great deal. That I haven't given up on the church. I still see the church as an answer to many of the problems in our city.
Thank you. So as we close our interview, I just want to say thank you for sharing your story and your experiences with me and the audience when this is posted, of course. It was a pleasure hearing your story, and I'm excited about all of the impact that you will have. And I appreciate your contribution to the ongoing discussion about women and their experience, and the nuance that you have brought with it in terms of urban ministry and church organization. So I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.